Hey friends, so I'm going to do a quick video today tasting a beer. Hopefully you saw the other video I did about the WSET systematic approach to tasting, the SAT, the WSET SAT, and I did the Saison. So today I'm going to be doing the Hazy IPA, and I've got a wonderful example here from a local brewery. This is the White Bronco from Sandwich Brewing in Windsor. And a lot of times you'll see this style, this hazy IPA style is kind of, it's not new, but it's sort of murky, which is apropos because it's a hazy beer. Let's say it's a murky style, a hazy style. So anyway, a lot of times you'll see it labeled as juicy, you might see it labeled as hazy, you might see it labeled as New England IPA, NEIPA. Those are basically all the same thing. So I've got my beer. This is a really well-known beer in the area. It is my favorite brewery, and it's probably my favorite beer at that brewery. And it's the place that I suggest everyone visit, you know, when they're in Windsor. And basically, we always buy this when we're out. If we're at a bar or if we're getting cans, this is kind of something that we just like to have. So I've got my beer, and if you remember in my last video, I said you should have a glass that's smaller. This is like a sample size glass and is more tapered at the top so that we can sort of trap those aromas. But this one is special because this is from the Alchemist Brewery in Vermont, and let me know in the comments if you know why it's special, but I'll still tell you. The Alchemist is considered to be the creator of the New England IPA style. So Vermont is in New England, and they have a beer called Heady Topper, and they actually, a lot of their beers are what's considered hazy. They have Focal Banger, which is probably my more preferred beer. They had for a while called like Kush, I think, but basically they were considered to be the originator, the creator, the pioneer of this style of beer. So it's appropriate that I have this glass for this tasting. So let's get into it, as they say. All right, so if you remember, we pour straight down the middle so we can build up a little head of foam there. We only need a couple ounces because, again, we're going to be doing some swirling and some, you know, holding, and this will warm up a bit. We'll lose some of that aromatic, you know, pleasantry. So I'm actually going to dump this sample, sadly. So I've got my little sample cup, or my dump cup, ready. So you can see that it had a nice little like foam head there, and now it's kind of gone. So I would still say that had like a, you know, a medium head foam. The foam is white and it's hazy. So it's not, if it were slightly hazy, I would say, what would be a good example of a slightly hazy beer? Maybe it's like a session version of a hazy. Or maybe you've poured a beer that's been bottle conditioned and you got a little bit of yeast in there, like that yeast cloudiness. So, you know, it could be hazy or it could be clear depending on how you pour. But this, I would say, is like straight hazy. And we can kind of tell because, you know, if we were to put something behind it, we're not able to see like any of those words coming through the other side. It's not opaque, like it's not like dark, dark, dark. So we're gonna call this hazy. And again, hazy IPA. So, you know, that's where they get that. So then we can look at like the foam stand, like how quickly did it disappear? Pretty quickly. And then now we'll do like our smelling and our aroma sensory. So again, we're gonna look at like how pronounced is the aroma when we're smelling it. So is it like, can I get it here? Do I have to go here? I would say for this one, probably like right here. Here I get just kind of like a generic, like I get an aroma. It smells fruity, but then I would have to get up here to get actual like specific aroma characteristics. So in that sense, I would say that the aroma is medium. It's not like straight out of the can pour. It like it hits me. I have to kind of get in there. So I would say medium, and then we look at, are the aromas I'm getting from the hops, the yeast, or the malt. So if you remember from my other video, WSET breaks down beers into like 3 different categories. So there's malt driven styles, hop driven styles, and yeast driven styles. So this is in the category of hop driven styles because they are heavily hopped, and so that's where you get those like juicy, fruity, tropical, citrusy aromas. So I would say this is tropical. And again, I'm not great with my pinpointing specific flavors and aromas, but I would say tropical, like pineapple, maybe like a lychee. And then again, I go with that sort of catch-all of like hay and grassy and chamomile. Like I feel like I'm getting a little bit of yeah, like I don't want to say herbalness, but it's not fruit, it's not pine, it's not, you know, those things. It's just like kind of in between. One thing I'm not getting, which is very important with this style, is I'm not getting any off aromas. So I feel like when people hear IPA, like as the overall style, they think that it's going to be super bitter. And this is almost the exact opposite. So a lot of hazy IPAs focus on whirlpool hopping, which is as the beer is coming out of the kettle, you go into this other, you know, process where you spin it. You spin your liquid so that everything kind of settles into the middle. So when you whirlpool your hops, you're not extracting any of that bitterness. You're getting mostly those, whatever specific hop you're using, their characteristics and their aroma. And then on the other end, after we've transferred it to the fermenter, you're doing dry hopping. So you're just throwing hops in there, like either as it's fermenting or right after it's finished fermenting. And that also contributes to some of the haziness. But basically, you shouldn't be getting any bitterness. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, you know, they try a hazy and they're like, oh, it's bitter. Yeah, I get it. And it's like, it shouldn't be like that. That's why it's juicy, fruity, etc. So another reason that I'm talking about this, the main reason I'm talking about this, is that a lot of times hops, if you have a heavily hopped beer, and you're not having it fresh, you're not drinking it fresh, those hops can like oxidize, and then this will turn brown. It won't be very pleasant, and you'll kind of know, like this is like a nice light gold color, I think I put down. If it was like brown or amber, it's not fresh. Don't drink it. And so I also have gotten into the habit now, while I'm at the liquor store, is checking the dates, because our liquor store is notorious for selling stuff that's been around for a million years. So this was actually packaged January 8th, 2026. So I feel okay with that. That's fresh enough. So let's taste it. So here, when we're tasting and we're doing our systematic approach to tasting, we're looking at things like the bitterness, the sweetness, the ABV, the carbonation. So I would say this has like medium carbonation. Again, most beers are medium carb level. The body is nice. I would say medium. And that's because a lot of times hazy recipes will use flaked oats or wheat, or maybe both, to sort of contribute to that, like, you know, heavier or kind of creamy mouthfeel. So it's got a nice medium body. I get almost zero bitterness. If anything, it's like towards the back, and it's like after I've swallowed and it's been like a few seconds, and then it like kind of shows up. But it's not like a you know, like a West Coast double IPA where it's just like, yeah, you know, pine and resin and, you know, dank and all this stuff. It's just like, it's like, you know that there's hops in there, but that's it. So that's really pleasant. I would say, and as far as sweetness goes, it almost has like a suggestion of sweetness, which sounds ridiculous, but basically it's not super dry like the Saison I tried in the last video. But again, it's not like syrupy, sickly, cloyingly sweet. And I hope it makes sense when I talk about these things, because I'm still trying to learn to be a better taster, and it is something that you have to practice. And, you know, if you don't do it consistently, it's like, you know, oh, I have it, like, you might drink beer regularly, but if you're not going through this list of, you know, like little bullet points of what to look at and you know, smell and taste for, you forget about them. And so, you know, even now I'll ask my husband, I'll say, can you smell this like glass of wine? And he'll say, well, it smells like grapes. Like, okay. It doesn't smell like grapes. So like, what other like aromas and things are you getting? So anyway, it's something that you have to practice. So I hope it's all making sense, because I'm trying to explain it in the best way I know how, and I know I'm not great at it. Yeah, that's a really, I mean, I knew it was, but that's a really nice beer. We also look at the ABV, and this one is 5.7. So like, based on the WSET, you know, standards, it would be considered a high ABV beer. You know, being an American, I feel like 7 is normal, and so above 7 is like high. But I mean, really, like industry wide, yeah, this is probably more accurate. But I don't know, I look at these beers and I think, oh, it's not that bad. Okay, so now I'm gonna take a sip and then kind of blow out some air through my nose after I swallow, which is what we call like retronasal. So like after you've swallowed, now you're smelling it the other way. I feel like I'm not picking up anything really different from before when I just smelled it. So I'm getting, again, like some of those like grassy type characteristics and the tropical fruit. I don't remember what kind of hops they use. I think I knew at some point, and I can always just ask, but basically it's probably American hops. And that's also something like when people are making hazy IPAs, they tend to go really heavy on like the American hops and the Australia and New Zealand hops, because those regions are known for being super fruity and like more powerful and just like really expressive. Whereas when you look at like England and like Germany and Poland and like Czech Republic, those hops are a little more muted, and they're really there to just give balance to the beer. And they use them because they were local. So those regions are not known for their like really over the top hops. However, Germany has started doing some like breeding programs where they're trying to make hops that will appeal to like the American or North American audience. And so they're taking hops that they, you know, have been using for, you know, hundreds of years, and they've started breeding them to produce new varieties. And so they've got a few now, like Callista, Mandarina Bavaria, I think there's another one, Hercules. And basically they're trying to create those types of hops that people will want to buy from them rather than, you know, buying hops from Australia and that kind of thing. And so you will see some of those now, but you wouldn't see any of the traditional like German wheat beers or lagers being made with those hops, like at all. Like they're just too like exciting and overpowering. So anyway, I went on a tangent, so I'm gonna take another sip. Yeah. So I would say the intensity as I'm drinking is like medium. And the finish is pretty short. Short to medium. I would say in between. It's like, I'm still kind of tasting it, but it's not unpleasant. It's not like, you know, really, really strong. It kind of just makes me want to take another drink, which is exactly what you want in a beer. And then we're looking at other things that could be considered like an off flavor or, you know, a problem. So is there any like harsh astringency? Are you getting any sort of like papery aromas or flavors? Are you getting any, you know, you really probably shouldn't see any like corn or like butter type flavors in this beer, this style of beer, but you know, it's possible. So I'm not getting any of that. I would say, so I pour a little more. This is an outstanding example of this style. It fits the color, the aroma, the flavor, the ABV, like it hits kind of all those stats for like a New England style IPA. And so I would say like this is like a perfect example, and this is why we buy it all the time. So yeah. So depending on where you're watching from, you probably won't get White Bronco because it's only distributed kind of locally in Windsor area. However, pretty much everyone and their brother is making a hazy IPA. So you'll definitely be able to find something locally. As far as like commercially, macro, let's see. Bell's distributes pretty widely. Bell's from Michigan, and I know they have a hazy hearted IPA. And who else? Alchemist, like where I got the glass, I don't know how far they distribute, but it's not even just the heady topper. If you could get any of their beers, most of them are going to be, you know, on the hazy side, and they're all really great quality. What else? I'm trying to think. I haven't lived in the US for so long that I don't really know what what the options are. Yeah, so that is my WSET SAT of the Hazy IPA. And in general, I just wanted to say that if you're watching, you know, any of my videos, I really appreciate it. I started a little over a year ago, January 2025, and you know, my posting's been a little bit spotty. Life kind of got in the way, and you know, I have that ADHD that just, man, makes it hard to get things done. So, you know, if you're still following, I really appreciate it. I've doubled my number of subscribers, so that's very exciting. If you think anyone else would be interested, please share with them. And I will say, my little anecdote is that I had a message a few weeks ago from someone on Instagram, and it went to my, you know, like my message request folder, spam type folder, and I just thought this has to be spam, you know, but he actually said, oh, I've been watching your YouTube videos as I've studied for my Cicerone exam, and it's been helping me. So like, I was shocked and flattered that anyone even watched my videos, but that it actually also helped them. So I just want to say I really appreciate that. Shout out to Carlos. I feel like you've made this whole channel worth it, because sometimes I feel like I'm just, you know, talking into the void while I drink beer, which isn't a terrible thing, but you know, it's nice to know that someone's appreciating it. But anyway, so I just want to say thank you. I appreciate your support if you're still here, and cheers.